And we welcome you to college basketball here on this channel. And welcome to a college basketball watch-along, an important game in the West Coast Conference with major NCAA tournament implications. 23-6 Santa Clara against 25-4 St. Mary's. I'm Seth Eaves. Thank you so much for being with us. We've saved you the best seat in the house. It's a 5-0 lead for St. Mary's, as you see. That changes, though, here on a basket by Elijah Mahi of Santa Clara. Most bracketologists have Santa Clara amongst the last four in or first four out, and St. Mary's just above in last four buys. Broncos up the floor with Jake Insminger. Now he'll give it to Mahi. Mahi now flips it around over to Christian Hammond. Now with the basketball, Hammond now meanders to the left wing. Hammond going for the lob inside, and it is tapped away into the hands of Mikey Lewis. Now here's Joshua Dent for St. Mary's. A whip-around pass, a three that is going to fall well short of the mark. And then a foul as Mahi got the rebound. St. Mary's, of course, trying to salvage a share of a fourth straight West Coast Conference Championship. And it's a big week to end the regular season for them. Santa Clara tonight, then arch nemesis Gonzaga at the weekend. So here is St. Mary's with Lewis. Wrap around, kick out, three, good. So the Gales get a three. That's Joshua Dent, 38% three-point shooter, cans one to give the Gales an 8-2 lead. Here's Santa Clara at the other end. Insminger a three. That one is no good. And Paulus Marascus gets the rebound. Here is Marascus, now over to Lewis. Lewis, top of the key. Lewis now trying to work, now moves over to the right wing. Bounce pass inside over to Marascus. Now back to Dylan Shaw. Lewis, great passing. Beautiful passing at a quarter three. Trailed by Dent, and the Gales now lead it by 9. Great start, and Herb Sendek has seen enough. It is a timeout for Santa Clara, with 16.5 minutes to go in the first half. 11-2, the start for St. Mary's. Important game in the West Coast Conference, and happens to be a pretty good rivalry as well, at least from a historic standpoint. This is one of the oldest basketball rivalries on the West Coast. Tonight, the 246th time these two teams are playing. It started back in the 1909-10 season. Herb Sendek, in his 10th season at Santa Clara, 32 years of D1 coaching experience, and he's nearing a milestone. His career, which has taken him to Miami of Ohio, NC State, Arizona State, and now Santa Clara. Sendek, 3 wins. More wins for Sendek will give him 600 for his career. Santa Clara has not won the conference since 1997. They haven't made the tournament since 1996. They have a net ranking of 41, St. Mary's 26. Each team has just the one quad 1 win. Strength of schedule not particularly great. So that might be something to look at here down the stretch. And of course, when you think about St. Mary's, you think about the man who's just guided this program for more than 2 decades. The great Randy Bennett. These two teams met at Santa Clara January 17th. Broncos won that game 62-54. St. Mary's at 25-4 this year. Their wins have come over St. Thomas, Chattanooga, Ohio, North Texas, Arkansas State, UC Merced, Wichita State, Virginia Tech, Davidson, FAU, Northern Iowa, Loyola Marymount, Pepperdine, Portland, Seattle, Washington State, San Francisco, Oregon State, Portland, San Diego, San Francisco, Pepperdine, Pacific, Seattle, and Washington State. They're on a 6-game win streak. The 4 losses this year The first came Thanksgiving Day by 11 to Virginia Tech. They then lost to Vanderbilt, Boise State, the only loss that you could conceivably call a bad loss in that stretch, and then Santa Clara, and also they've lost to Gonzaga. So here comes Santa Clara now up the floor. They did beat Virginia Tech. Vanderbilt was the loss that made a mistake there. Drive to the basket inside, good, and a chance at a three-point play. For Allen Graves, 72% free throw shooter, who averages 11 points a game for this Santa Clara team. Redshirt freshman from Ponchatoula, Louisiana. He's had a really good year for the Santa Clara team, and he makes the free throw to make it 11 to 5. So here is St. Mary's now with the inbounds pass. They go up the floor with Mikey Lewis. Lewis now meandering over to the left side. Here's Lewis. Lewis now trying to go with it. Gives it back to Morauskas. Morauskas. Now over to Shaw. Shaw on the move. Shaw. Runner in the lane. No. Tip also doesn't go. Loose ball scramble. Lewis trying to dive for it, and it's going to be Santa Clara basketball, I do believe. Yes. Santa Clara 23-6. The wins over Cal Poly, Humboldt, McNeese, Xavier, Nevada, Idaho State, Louisiana, Minnesota, Utah Tech, North Texas, Oregon State, Portland, Pepperdine, San Diego, LMU Pacific, St. Mary's, San Diego, San Francisco, LMU Pacific, Washington State, Seattle, and San Francisco. 6 losses this year. Their first came to St. Louis, New Mexico, Arizona State, Loyola Chicago, and the 2 to Gonzaga. As Santa Clara is challenging whether or not this should belong actually to them instead. So Santa Clara really with a couple of questionable losses. Arizona State and Loyola Chicago are not going to sit well with the committee. They could somehow win this game tonight, though. This would be a massive win. 2 over St. Mary's. As long as you avoid defeats at Oregon State, then maybe still one at the conference tournament coming up. It looks as if the ruling on the ruling on the court has been reversed here. So it's 11 to 5 with 15:49 to play in the opening half. Santa Clara wins the challenge and they get the inbounds pass. Gales in black uniforms tonight, going from right to left. There's Mahi, the reigning WCC Player of the Week. Move. Here is Sasha Gavulyov, and he scores. Sash Gavulyov with a basket, and it's 11 to 7. So good work for Santa Clara. They get it back within 4. Here comes Mikey Lewis. Lewis right wing. Now baseline goes wrap around. Dylan Shaw 3 to 5 for 3 in the corner. It won't go. And a scrum on the deck ensues. Still loose. And then finally a whistle, and it's going to go to St. Mary's. Or did Santa Clara get a timeout out of that? I believe it's what happened, a timeout for Santa Clara is what was called here. So 11 to 7, St. Mary's on top in this most important game in the West Coast Conference season. you see your score if you're just joining us, 11-7 in favor of St. Oh, well, now we've missed a few other scores, so now we now go the other way with St. Mary's, and their layup is no good. So apparently we had a bit of a switch there, and a lot happened. Okay, whoa. Back it up. 13-10. Randy Bennett, 25th season at St. Mary's, 7-time WCC Coach of the Year. 72% of his games that he's won. One Sweet 16 trip that came when Matthew Dellavedova and friends went back in 2010. Harry Wessels, the 7-1 senior from Australia. That's going to be, I think, the big lasting legacy. Is this international pipeline he just has continued to develop over the years to this St. Mary's program. Entered the year with the 7th best career field goal percentage in the history of the program. St. Mary's, the best free throw shooting team in the United States, at least at the D1 level, and that's on cue. He missed. Rebound, Santa Clara. Alan Graves with it. Now it's Thierry Darland, and he gets stripped of the ball. Santa Clara on the move. Here is Gavuyaga for 3. That one rims out no good. Rebound, Joshua Dent. Now here's Lewis. Lewis trying to knife his way through. Kicks it back out. Corner 3. Off the mark, no good. And the rebound, Santa Clara. St. Mary's on a 24-game home win streak at the Pavilion in Moraga. Here's Christian Hammond with it now. Kick out. 3 on the way. Good. Alan Graves knocking down a triple. He's a 40% three-point shooter, and he drills that one to cut it to a 1-point game. Now here is Lewis. An 11-3 Santa Clara run. Now it's Dent with the basketball, the left wing. Dent being guarded closely. Dent now on the drive. The ball slipped out of his hands. Alan Graves with that, three-point stroke. So Santa Clara, of course, beating St. Mary's earlier this season. And so here with 3 on the shot clock. So fresh reset here. Here's Andrew McKeever, and now he gets roughed up. So another whistle. Kick out the Dent in the corner. St. Mary's trying to whip the ball around here with Mikey Lewis. Lewis, 3 to shoot. Lewis forces 1. Way off the mark. And the rebound gathered in by Santa Clara. Ball tipped now into the hands of KJ Cochran. Hammond at 3. No, leading scorer couldn't connect. Buki Abuye with the follow. That doesn't fall, but he gets fouled. First, we mentioned that Santa Clara beat St. Mary's this season. In the first game, as the first free throw is good. We could say we're not, we're changing things up. We have time to blabber about this when the national people take a break, as Liam Campbell has checked in for St. Mary's. Second free throw for Boye, who's a 64% free throw shooter. Second one good for the redshirt sophomore from Houston. And Santa Clara now has the lead, 15-14. Dent, Shaw, Morauskas, Campbell, McKeever, the 5 on the floor for St. Mary's. Dent gives it back out to Morauskas. 15 to shoot. Morauskas looking for the bounce pass, kicks it out. Campbell, wrap around, Dent. Now Morauskas, a left corner three, way off the mark. McKeever the rebound. Ball slipping out of his hands, out of bounds. It goes to Santa Clara. Randy Bennett rather perplexed at the present time. So here's Santa Clara with Gavlyagov. He drives and misses on the bunny. McKeever the rebound. Now Dent up the floor for SMC. Haven't scored in nearly 2.5 minutes. Campbell, Dent. Drought will continue. McKeever's tip no good, but a foul underneath. Graves coming back in for Santa Clara, as is Jake Insminger. Here's a catch and shoot jumper that's good. Morauskas drills the mid-range to break the St. Mary's scoring drought. And the Gales now recapture the lead. Gavlyagov over to Graves. Graves, low post, little hook underneath. Rims out, no good. Got his own miss, though. Finds Insminger underneath. Kicks it back out. Floater is off the mark. It rims out into the hands of Dylan Shaw. Now it's St. Mary's going the other way. Now it goes back over to Dent. Dent. Layup, no. Tip does go, though, by McKeever. 3-point game, 11:15 to play in this opening half. Gavlyagov. Kick out to Graves. Now back to Gavlyagov. Now it's Insminger. Hammond. Floater. Rims out. Unlucky bounce there. And it goes into the hands of Morauskas. Morauskas, and it's tripped. It's stolen. Now another whistle here. And that'll lead to a timeout with 10:46 to go. 18:50 to score. St. Mary's on top of Santa Clara. So again, Santa Clara. Again, to say that they had struggled against St. Mary's in recent years. The win against St. Mary's earlier in the year was their first in the series since February 8th of 2022, which was a 77-72 win inside the Levy Center. The last time they won in Moraga was January of 2021, 66-64. Was the final in that one. That was the last time that Santa Clara won at St. Mary's. The last time they won at St. Mary's with fans in the stands, January of 2020, 67-66. Gonzaga 16-1 in the conference. These two teams tied for second place. Oregon State coming up next at 8 Pacific. Washington State, San Francisco has been a big disappointment. Seattle, then LMU and San Diego, who's fired Steve Lavin, of course, now 5-11. Portland's second bottom and rock bottom at 3-14 of the conference is Pepperdine. Of course, this is a league that is about to be, as I'm sure you are well aware, about to undergo a massive change ahead of next basketball season. So, as play resumes here, it's Christian Hammond. Graves a straightaway three, good. Even at 18 on the Graves triple. Now here is Wessels with the basketball now. Here is Wessels trying to work it around. Gives it, this is actually Dent with it. Dent now gives it to Liam Campbell. Campbell at the free throw line. Kick out back to Dent. Dent trying to circle it around. Dent's going to have to pull with 4 of the timer. Wrap around and a rebound McKeever. Good follow by McKeever. And he puts it in. A deuce for Andrew McKeever. And St. Mary's back in front. Now Brenton Napper on a drive. And he goes all the way to the basket. Good acceleration for Napper, who averages 8 points a game. 20 apiece. Good one going on here in the WCC tonight on our live watch-along. Here is Dent. Now back to McKeever. Dent lobbing it. Picked off by Graves. Good save. Now finds Hammond. Hammond down the left wing. 22 to shoot. Now lob over to Insminger. Bobbled it briefly. Got it back though. Insminger now back to Napper. Now it's Mahi. Mahi with 9 to shoot. Mahi bounce pass. Napper off the window. No. Tapped around. Rebounded by St. Mary's. Here is Dent. Now back over to Campbell. Campbell lob now to McKeever. 11 on the timer. McKeever now kicks it out to Juzenis for 3. And Juzenis' 3 is off the mark. No good. Santa Clara has it back with Alan Graves. Here's Hammond. Accelerates and scores. Great work by Christian Hammond to put Santa Clara back in front. Dent now gets it over to Campbell. Campbell on the move. Campbell drives. Offensive foul. And so back will go. This is the West Coast Conference, of course, that will, of course, lose Gonzaga as well as Oregon State and Washington State. They're going to go to they're all going for the new Pac-12. Of course, Oregon State won 10. Washington State, Oregon State are 10 there in football, but they're going to be there. Those 3 will not be in the WCC for basketball next season. They're into that new Pac-12. The league is going to gain Denver next season, and then UC San Diego the year after that. Drive to the basket, no. Offensive rebound, Santa Clara. Oh, and Aboye puts it in. And it is a 4-point Santa Clara lead. (24-20) the lead for Santa Clara. Here is Mikey Lewis. High off the glass, it scores. Great work there by Mikey Lewis, and the Gales pull to within 2. Pavliagov with it on the left wing. Bounce pass over to Thierry Darlin, and he's fouled. So a break here in the action with 7:21 to play first half. 24-22. Santa Clara on top. Santa Clara, of course, we've noted this already on the broadcast tonight. This is a team that has not made the NCAA tournament in quite a while. They have been to the tournament 11 times. Their most recent appearance was 1996. Of course, that back in the days of lesser tournaments, they made the Elite Eight a handful of times and did go to the Final Four in 1952. Where they beat UCLA and Wyoming before losing to Kansas, and then lost in the old third place game they used to have back then. Illinois beat them 67-64. But in the modern-ish era, the most famous moment for St. Mary's in the tournament was in 1993 when they became just the second 15 seed ever to beat a 2 when they knocked off Arizona 64-61. The Broncos haven't been since 96. They beat Maryland by 12 in the first round that year before losing by 25 to Kansas. They were in the NIT last year, their 7th NIT appearance. And they won their first NIT game since 1984 last year when they beat UC Riverside 101-62 before a hard-fought 4-point loss in round 2 to UAB. And of course, they won the CBI back in 2013, beating Vermont, Purdue, Wright State, and George Mason. They also won their lone trip to the old collegeinsider.com tournament, where they beat Northern Arizona, Air Force, San Francisco, SMU, and then Iona in 2011 en route to the championship. Steve Nash, of course, the famous All-American in 96. Other notable alumni there, Kurt Rambis was a Conference Player of the Year. So too was Brandon Podziemski now of the Golden State Warriors. They have not won a regular season championship, Santa Clara, since 97. They've only won the conference tournament twice, 87 and 93. As we go back to this game, the big story here, Christian Hammond, he's their leading scorer, Santa Clara. He's averaging 16 a game, but he has yet to score tonight. Thierry Darlin at the line, 88% free throw shooter, and he makes the first one. Junior from Bangui, Central African Republic, NBA Academy Africa graduate. He's averaging, when you round everything up, he's averaging 7 points, 4 rebounds, and 1 assist per game on the season. Second free throw rattles in for the man who was a preseason All-WCC selection. Of course, played in the G League for 2 seasons, so and we'll leave it at that. Here's Mikey Lewis for St. Mary's. Morauskas. Rory Hawk now over to Joshua Dent. Now it's Wessel's right block trying to poke it in with 8 to shoot. Kick out. Lewis down to 5. Lewis trying to go with 3. Lewis has to put it up with 1 and hits it. Mikey Lewis with the 3 to beat the shot clock, and it gets the Gales back to within a point. 3 ties, 3 lead changes, largest lead of the game, 9. That belonged to St. Mary's. Here is Gaviliagov. Good pass to Darlin inside, and Darlin scores to reestablish the 3-point lead. Now it goes into the hands of Lewis. Now Dent. And Dent had it stolen by Graves. Gives it to Mahi. Kick out on the run. Fast break. Cochran transition 3. No. Graves got the offensive board. Darlin now on the take. Darlin on the move. Cochran now back over to Darlin. His corner 3. You betcha. Darlin, a 34% three-point shooter, buries the triple. And the Santa Clara lead is at 6. Darlin had 15 points and 3 threes in that San Francisco win Saturday. Got a couple of tips there before it went into the hands of Dent. St. Mary's having some trouble right now. Good backdoor cutting there, though. And a flush, a dunk by Hawk. But Santa Clara going back at breakneck speed. Here is Mahi. No. And we we've got a whistle and a foul against St. Mary's. Boy, has this game been fun or what? He had career high 30 points in that San Francisco game. Misses the first free throw. 72% at the line. Senior from Toronto, played at Potter's House Christian in Florida. He does make the second, however. He was the leading returning scorer this season after averaging 11 last year. Another preseason all-conference selection. Gales now with the inbound. St. Mary's has made its last 3 field goals. They find themselves down by 5. Dent on the take, and Dent scores. Great work by Dent. And that cuts it to a 3-point game as we near the 5-minute mark of this first half. Kavulyagov now over to Darlin. Darlin now over to Cochran. Now Kavulyagov. Kavulyagov runner. Got it! Will bounce off the front rim, and it goes in. Santa Clara playing like a team that desperately needs a marquee road win. Here's Lewis. Kicks it out. Hawk a 3. No. Tapped around. Goes back to Dent. Now Lewis. Lewis looks for help. Has it in the form of Dent. His 3 is good. Joshua Dent with the triple to cut it back to 2. 34-32 the lead for Santa Clara. Dent has 11. 2-point lead for Santa Clara. Wessels. Wessels, 8 to shoot. Wessels on a drive. Off the mark, no good, out of bounds, and it's going to stay with Santa Clara. Dent disagrees with that call. Don't forget, halftime is coming up. At halftime, I will hit the dead air button, and then we will still give you scores at halftime. St. Mary's, of course, you know about them, their history. A team that has made 13 trips to the NCAA tournament. Their best was the Elite 8 back in 1959, their first trip. Again, it was back in the days when you didn't have seeds, you didn't have to play as many games. In the 64/68 team era, the modern era, if you like, their best run was the Sweet 16 trip in 2010. They beat Richmond and Villanova before losing 72-49 to Baylor. St. Mary's last year, when it's won in the NCAA tournament, they beat Vanderbilt 59-56 before an 80-66 loss to Alabama in their season. Gales have been to the NIT 6 times. Their best appearance, the quarterfinals on 3 occasions. 2009, where they beat Washington State and Davidson before losing to San Diego State. 2016, a year where they felt they should have been in the NCAA tournament. They beat New Mexico State and Georgia, but were denied an MSG trip by losing by 16 to Valparaiso in the quarterfinals. Then in 2018, they beat Southeastern Louisiana and Washington before losing in overtime to Utah in the quarters. Their last NIT trip was 2021. They lost by 2 in the first round to Western Kentucky. Famous alumni there includes Patty Mills, Jack Landale, and Matthew Delvedova, as well as Mahershala Ali. And you're probably wondering, who is Mahershala Ali? Well, he's formerly known as Herschel Gilmore. He's a 2-time Academy Award-winning actor who played at St. Mary's in the 90s as a guard. Of course, Randy Bennett, as of right now, 5th longest tenured active coach with one school. Only Greg Campy, Tom Izzo, Mark Few, and Yale's James Jones have been at their current schools longer than Bennett, who first coached at St. Mary's back in 2001. He's just done a great job. He's won the West Coast tournament 4 times. He's won a regular season championship 6 times. And as I mentioned earlier, a 7-time WCC Coach of the Year. Santa Clara leading by 2 with 3 on the shot clock as we get back to break off the inbounds. Graves' catch and shoot 3 doesn't go. Ball goes out of bounds. And it's going to be... whose ball is it? It's going to be Santa Clara's, but Randy Bennett is going to disagree with the call, and he's going to challenge it. So he is going to challenge it. So 34-32, Santa Clara lead here over St. Mary's. This big game of the West Coast Conference. For Santa Clara, it's a win. That would be huge for their NCAA tournament hopes. If a win for them and a loss would leave them on the bubble and leave them with little margin for error. St. Mary's, if they win, they would have to feel pretty good, even better about their standing. Most outlets have them as one of the last 4 to 7 buys, if you will, but their spot could be more locked down if they were to win today, and especially if they were to win tonight and then win the finale against Gonzaga on Saturday. If they lose, they're not in trouble, but that bubble does get a little murkier for them, perhaps. And as a certain bracketologist said in his release earlier today, his daily release on social media, he said, at this time of year, honestly, more teams play their way out of the bracket than into the bracket. So 3:40 to play first half. Here is, and so St. Mary's did win the challenge, and they will have the basketball. So here is Rory Hawk up the floor. Now Dylan Shaw gives it back to Morauskas. Morauskas on the drive, no, but a foul here. Now Lick was in the act of shooting, so an 83% free throw shooter will go to the line. Palis Morauskas from Kaunas, Lithuania. First one is good. First team All-WCC performer last year was also the conference's newcomer of the year. He transferred in from Arizona. Makes the second. Game is tied. Both these teams shooting over 40% for the field. He drives. That doesn't fall. Rebound St. Mary's. Dylan Shaw, 19-12. St. Mary's with the rebounding edge in this one. Here is Shaw. Now Hawk gives it over back to Shaw. Shaw, now it's Morauskas, 7 to shoot, turnaround, no. Loose ball, Shaw has it and calls for the timeout, and I believe he got it. So it is indeed a timeout taken by St. Mary's with 2:46 to go in the first half in a tie game. Oh, nope, not a timeout. Maybe it was a timeout. Evidently it was not. Four ties in this game. Here is Hammond. Hammond, turnaround hook shot, rims out. Rebound gathered in by Shaw. Now Lewis. Lewis on the right block, 17 to shoot. Lewis. Hawk, reverse layup, brilliantly done. Rory Hawk with a reverse layup at St. Mary's. Goes up 2. 7-0 run, and now a Santa Clara turnover. Boy, how big a stretch could this prove to be at the end of the first half? The run from St. Mary's, and now Santa Clara getting rather sloppy with it. Morauskas now with 15 to shoot. Morauskas' fadeaway is good. Morauskas knocks it down. It's a 4-point lead for St. Mary's. Here's Santa Clara with Graves. Graves on the attack. And Graves with the basket. Count it, and 1. A chance at a 3-point play for Alan Graves, the redshirt freshman, as we mentioned, from the state of Louisiana. Redshirted 1 year ago, was the boys basketball player of the year 2 years ago with the state of Louisiana. One of 3 siblings that played D1 basketball. His brother Marshall played at LSU. His sister played at Auburn. Free throw is no good. Rebounded by St. Mary's. Gale's trying to go. Here's Lewis with it. Lewis now hits the accelerator. Lewis all the way. 4-point game. Here is Mahi. Now back to Gavuliyagov. Gavuliyagov, kick out. Graves, straight away, 3, in and out. Rebounded by St. Mary's. Morauskas says we're now under a minute to play in this opening half. Here is Lewis. Lewis off the window. No. Loose ball, and we've got a foul here. Yes. Foul here, and it is a 4-point lead for St. Mary's. St. Mary's to inbound. If Alan St. Clair as Wessels goes back to the bench. Hawks in with 49 seconds to play. Here's your inbounds pass for St. Mary's. And it's picked off. Stolen by Hammond. Hammond then lost the basketball. Out of bounds, and back it'll go to St. Mary's. Eight turnovers for St. Mary's. Rory Hawk. 13-second difference between game and shot clock. Lewis. Now over to Hawk. Hawk now over to Lewis. 12 on the timer. Lewis now trying to go. Back it goes to Morauskas. 7 on the timer. Morauskas had the ball stripped. Foul. That should send him to the line. Will the man from Lithuania. University Credit Union Pavilion. It has been St. Mary's home since January of 1978 is when it first opened. First free throw up and good. 3,500 seating capacity. $41.36. Here's your second free throw, and it's good. 6-point game, 19 seconds for Santa Clara to try and do something. Up the court they go with Gaviliagov. Gaviliagov with the basketball. Gaviliagov right wing with 7. Wraparound pass. Graves with 4. Graves had it blocked. 2 seconds. 1 second. And that'll be the end of the first half. They will not get a shot off, will St. Mary's. So that is going to take us to halftime. And our score after 20 minutes, it's St. Mary's 42 and Santa Clara 36. Santa Clara 1-2 when trailing at the half this season. St. Mary's is 22-1 when they lead at the half. Something to keep in mind. Gonna hit the off button, go dead air for a few moments, and when we come back, I'll have a look at all the scores from the night, not just in college basketball, but also scores and news from around the sports world as you enjoy this college basketball watch-along. Forty-two 36 St. Mary's. The lead is the score 42-36 in favor of St. Mary's as the Gales look to get a big win. Both these teams looking for a massive win in the West Coast Conference. It's halftime, so if you're new here, you know what drill is. If you're familiar, well, I don't need to tell you what we do here. We go halftime. It's a men's college basketball game, so we'll go around the country on the men's side, as well as women's top 25 and other sports news and scores as necessary. We start in men's college basketball, as is usually the case on Wednesday night, a rather busy night inside the top 25. Here is what's happening at the top 25. The game of the night, St. John's and UConn in the Big East. These two teams met just a couple of weeks ago at the Garden in New York. St. John's won. Tonight, a completely different story. 6th-ranked Huskies snap the long win streak of the 15th-ranked Johnnies. 72-40 a rout. Terrace Reed Jr., a complete package for UConn. 20 points, 11 rebounds, and 6 blocks. Connecticut wins its 26th of the year and goes to 16-2 in the Big East. That's Connecticut. How about the team that knocked Connecticut out of the NCAA tournament last year and won the whole thing? 7th-ranked Florida. Boy, are the Gators starting to turn it on or what? Playing at Texas tonight, they were down 3 at the half. They then outscored Texas 48-32 in the second half. Final in that ball game, Gators 84, Longhorns 71. Florida 22-6, setting up a monster showdown on Saturday at home against the University of Arkansas. We'll tell you how the Hogs did in just a minute. Texas still kind of flirting with that bubble at 17-11, 8-7 of the SEC. Number 9 Gonzaga suffered one of the most stunning losses any college basketball team had this year a few weeks ago when they were upset at Portland. A team that was so bad that a coach who was on a torn ACL was also having to do some scouting. Scout team. Portland shocked the college basketball world. Even the most optimistic Pilots fan kind of had a sense of how the rematch would go in Spokane tonight. Zags roll 89-48 for their 28th win of the year. Number 12, Nebraska, a 74-61 winner over Maryland. Number 17, Alabama scored 63 points in the first half. They rout Mississippi State 100-75 in that one. We mentioned number 20, Arkansas. They hold up their end of the bargain to get ready for the big Florida showdown. They win a high-scoring 99-84 game against a reeling Texas A&M team. The two teams, it was 37-28 at halftime. The two teams then proceeded to combine for 118 points in the second half. The Hogs getting 62 of them. And finally in the top 25, good bounce back for number 25, Vanderbilt. They knocked off Georgia 88-80 tonight. Outside the top 25, unranked games, a few in progress, 17-12 left. Washington State leads Loyola Marymount 41-33. Halftime in the Big Ten in Eugene, it's Wisconsin 33, Oregon 30. Big game of the Mountain West, and San Diego State leads Utah State 46-33. That game is at the half. A couple of games just going final. Oregon State in overtime over San Diego 92-82. And Cal with a much-needed win at home tonight. They beat SMU. California wins it 73-69. That's a big one. Cal wins its 20th of the year. Finals from outside the top 25. Bucknell and Army playing a 3 o'clock game earlier today. The Bison win it 75-73. Morgan State earns a 90-83 win over South Carolina State. Boston College scores on a tip-in the final second to beat Wake Forest 68-67. This despite 38 points from the Deacons' Juke Harris. Furman wins its 19th of the year as they beat one of their old rivals, the Citadel, 72-51. Oakland 86, IU Indianapolis 74. Illinois State 71, Northern Iowa 69. Again, these are all finals. Mild upset tonight of the Patriot League. Lafayette wins at Colgate 70-69. Lafayette's arch rival also winning tonight. Again, final. These are all finals. Final, Lehigh 78, American 73. Final, St. Joseph's 81, George Mason 63. Patriots kind of limping to the finish line here. Davidson a winner for the 17th time this year. They go to Pittsburgh and beat Duquesne 67 to 56. Charlotte beat North Texas 80 to 79. It was Boston U 78, Holy Cross 63. Villanova wins tonight 82-73 against Butler. Navy wins its 24th of the year and goes to 16-1 in the Patriot League. They blew out Loyola, Maryland tonight on the road 78-51. Jordan Crawford's 26 led South Dakota past Omaha 89-72. Robert Morris defeats Detroit 73-62. Ryan Prater Jr. with 29 for Robert Morris. Wright State beat Purdue Fort Wayne 74-70. It was Northern Kentucky 81, Cleveland State 70. Western Carolina 78, Mercer 74. Wofford 72, East Tennessee State 69. That's a bit of a surprise. Bucks have clinched the regular season in the 1 seed, the SoCon, over the weekend. Wofford still in that fight for second, which is remarkable given some of the off-court trouble they had about a couple months before the season started. West Georgia, relatively new to D1, they won their 13th of the year tonight, knocking off Lipscomb 84-77. Queens 96, Eastern Kentucky 79. Belmont is now 26-4 after a 98-64 rout of Evansville. Tulsa 90, Tulane 56. What a year for that proud program. 23-6 is their mark. Jalen Sellers, Providence got 27 from Jalen Sellers. They defeat Xavier 94-84. It was Valparaiso 74, Drake 71. Southern Illinois 66, Indiana State 55. South Florida 75, Rice 56. East Carolina 82, UTSA 81. Stanford 75, Pittsburgh 67. Milwaukee 78, Youngstown State 65. James Madison defeated Georgia Southern 82-66. It was South Alabama 89, Louisiana Monroe 54. Central Arkansas 93, Austin Peay 88. Seattle 87, Pepperdine 80. Colorado scored the last 6 points en route to beating Kansas State 79-70. Ohio State with a message that you don't exactly want to send to the selection committee in late February when you're on the bubble. Buckeyes lifeless tonight in a 74-57 loss at Iowa. Grand Canyon beat UNLV 80-67. And file this under things that sound weird, but's true. DePaul completes the season sweep of Creighton. They go into Omaha and beat the Blue Jays 72-71. Chris Holtman is doing a bang-up-ish job there. DePaul, of course, been in the wilderness for years. Could be on track to end the year with a winning record. They're now 15-13 after that win tonight. LSU and Ole Miss renew their rivalry tonight. The Bayou Bengals go to Oxford and win 106-99 in double overtime. North Alabama got the win tonight over Bellarmine 73-68. Women's basketball top 25. One of the wildest endings of the entire season between number 8 Michigan and 13th ranked Ohio State. Michigan looked to have had the game won. Shayla Swords hit a big 3 at the end of regulation. Try to follow along here. Michigan went up 3. Ohio State then tried a quick root basket underneath. That did not work. The follow-up was missed, but there was a foul. So Ohio State tried a 3 and missed. On a follow-up, that was missed, but there was a foul. But Ohio State missed both free throws. Michigan, with mere seconds left, had to inbound. Ohio State then got a hand on it. Another Buckeye player picked it up, threw up a three-pointer, drew a foul, and hit all 3 free throws to send the game to overtime. Ohio State led by as many as 8 in the overtime. Michigan chipped back. Olivia Olson hit a driving jumper with 3 seconds left to put Michigan up a deuce. Ohio State had one last chance with no timeouts. They hit a shot just inside a half court, nothing but net. But on the floor, and after review, they reviewed it. It was confirmed the shot was not off in time. Michigan in a wild one. 88-76. Olsen had 31, a career high. A few other women's top 25 teams were in action tonight. Number 11, TCU wraps up the Big 12 regular season title with an 83-70 win at Cincinnati. They got 32 from Marta Suarez in that one. 14th ranked Maryland, no trouble with Northwestern, 79-57. Number 17, West Virginia beat UCF 74-62. And Kansas knocked off number 20, Texas Tech tonight, 68-59. NBA scoreboard, one game in progress, 5:33 to play. Denver leads Boston 89-72. Pistons beat the shorthanded Thunder 124-116. San Antonio won again tonight. They beat the Raptors in Toronto 110-107. It was Golden State 133, Memphis 112. Houston routed Sacramento 128-97. A triple-double for Alperen Sengun. Reed Shepherd, a career-high 7 threes. And Milwaukee knocked off Cleveland 118-116. The NHL returned from its Olympic break tonight. No doubt what the big story of the night was. It was in New Jersey, where Jack Hughes was given a hero's welcome and an unbelievably raucous standing ovation by the Prudential Center crowd. The Devils, though, could not get it done. They lose 2-1 to the Buffalo Sabres. Games in progress. Winnipeg and Vancouver are tied at 2 in the third. Also in the third, LA leads Vegas 2-1, and Edmonton has a 4-2 lead over Anaheim at the second intermission. Finals from tonight was Washington 3, Philadelphia 1. Tampa Bay beat Toronto 4-2. Dallas, no trouble with Seattle 4-1. Colorado beat Utah by 4-2. In the Champions League, Atalanta shocked Borussia Dortmund. A last-minute penalty gives them a 4-1 win and a 4-3 aggregate win in front of the Yellow Wall. Galatasaray, PSG, Real Madrid also won. That's halftime over. Second half underway. Glad to have you with us here tonight. Santa Clara going left to right in their black uniforms, and they turn it over. St. Mary's on the opposite way, wearing their white uniforms. All tip. Joshua Dent has it, though. Dent with 13 on the timer. Lewis. And a violation there, foul of some sort. So Santa Clara ball with 19-26 left. Again, 6-point game. Santa Clara driving to the basket and missing there. So here comes St. Mary's with Dent. 3, brick off the heel. Rebound Santa Clara with Britton Napper. Napper off the window. No. Rebound St. Mary's Wessels. Gives it over to Dent. Dent. Ball tipped, stolen, and St. Mary's has it. Then a steal by Lewis. Boy, turnovers to start this second half. Lewis is 3 no good. Shaw gets the follow-up, though, and puts it in. Good work by Dylan Shaw for the first points of the second half. And the St. Mary's lead is now at 8. This is Mahi. Thought about the 3 now. Gives it up to Napper. Now back to Aboye. His 3. In and out. Rebound, St. Mary's Shaw. Now here is Shaw with 20 on the timer. Shaw the bounce pass to Morauskas. Morauskas fade away. No good. Rebound, Aboye. Now back to... Not Aboye. It was Wessels with it now, and then someone a foul underneath. So here's Harry Wessels at the free throw line. 68% free throw shooter. And he rattles the first one in. 7'1" senior again from Boddington in West Australia. (45-36). Wessel's second free throw short. And the rebound to Santa Clara with Mahi, and then Mahi turned it over. Here's Lewis to the trailing Dent. Dent now looking for the basketball. Now Dent kicking it back out to Shaw. Shaw takes a three and hits it. And St. Mary's has ballooned the lead up to a dozen. Its largest of the night. Timeout, Herb Sendak. Wow. St. Mary's has come out on fire in this second half. I mean, St. Mary's just having an absolutely amazing game here. Or an amazing start, I should say, at least, to this second half. Now, Santa Clara out of this timeout. They must find a way to adjust, or else it could really get out of hand. So 17-21 left. All right, ready to resume out of the break. 19-2 run since the 4:20 mark of the first half for St. Mary's, and it's a big reason why this lead has ballooned to 12. Hammond on a drive, no, but he's fouled, and that's been another big story. Santa Clara's leading scorer, Christian Hammond, really has not gotten going in this game. Redshirt sophomore from Denver, who averages 16 points a game. He's a 79% free throw shooter. First one is good. Father was a Loyola Marymount player and then also played professional. His grandfather, Julian Hammond Sr., played for the old Denver Rockets in the ABA back in the late 60s, early 70s. And he has a brother, Julian, who is currently a senior guard at Colorado. So could it be a double winning night? We told you the Buffaloes got the job done at halftime. Gales have some work to do. Just 4 points for Hammond. He averages 16 on the year. Inside, Wessels misses the bunny. And Mahi with it now for Santa Clara. Mahi on a drive. Mahi with a kick out now over to Ensminger, and ball gets tipped out of bounds. 16:38 remaining. 10-point lead. Vuyagov to Hammond. Look out. And Santa Clara was in a real straitjacket. And that is a timeout. Is that a timeout? If that's a timeout, that's the last for Santa Clara. And there's still north of 16 minutes to play. My goodness. Wow. St. Mary's, 24 straight wins, tied for the fourth longest active home win streak in these United States with Utah Valley. The three longest, a three-way tie. Miami of Ohio, Duke, and Akron, all with 29 straight wins at home. Duke's going to get a serious test of those credentials this weekend as an underappreciated red-hot Virginia team comes to Cameron. That'll be a good one on Saturday. Here's a 10-point lead for St. Mary's. 16:35 left. Santa Clara to inbound, now out of timeouts. Lob to Mahi. Mahi trying to make a move. 5 to shoot. Put it up and score the basket. Mahi does the work inside. 8-point lead for St. Mary's. Here's a kick out. Corner three. Rattles in. Dylan Shaw with the three, and the lead goes back to 11. Shaw has 11 points. Leaner. Oh, Hammond. Nice work inside by Christian Hammond. He shuffles it in, and now it's a 51-42 game. Here is St. Mary's now with Joshua Dent. Dent attacks, no. Followed by Wessels is good, though. Boy, that was a good hustle there by Wessels to follow that in. And the St. Mary's lead now back to 11. And Hammond has a bit of a stumble. So the lead at 9 for the Gales of St. Mary's. 53-42 at St. Mary's again, trying to just about nail down an NCAA tournament berth. They will do that with one win, probably. If they were to win both of these last games at the end of the regular season, then they could lose their first game to a lesser team in the conference tournament, and it would still just would be darn near impossible, quite frankly. Leave them out of the NCAA tournament. Again, it's going to be hard to find too many ways to leave them out anyway, but definitely, if they were to get out. The tournament, by the way, starts March the 5th. It is in Las Vegas, and it is once again using the ladder system. So if you're a top 2 seed, you get a bye to the semifinals. First round on Thursday, March 8th, 12 plays 9 and 10 plays 11. The winners of those games will play the 8th seed and the 7th seeds. The 5 and 6 seeds get a bye to Saturday and play Friday's winners. The 3 and 4 seeds get a bye to Sunday and play Saturday's winners, then the semis, and then the finals. So, once again, the winner of the top 2 teams, a very, very straightforward path to the championship, which is a big reason why this game is important. Because you would love to have the bye to the semis as opposed to just the single solitary bye, or bye to Sunday. I'm going to get those words out eventually. We'll solve that later. Again, the regular season ends this weekend, if you can believe. Season just flying by. Santa Clara just 4-12 from 3. That one doesn't go. Graves tracks it down, though. 20-7 St. Mary's, by the way, in second chance points. Graves hooks it in. 53-44. Graves has been solid tonight for this St. Mary's team. Here is Dent. Dent's going to pull straightaway 3 and hit it. Big time triple for Dent, and the lead is now at 12. 56-44. Here they come, back the other way. Mahi with it. Mahi with 5. Hayes. Galyagov's got to pull with 1 on the timer. It doesn't go. Ball tracked down by Shaw at St. Mary's. Now going the other way with it. Lewis a 3. Short off the front rim. Darling gets the rebound. Darling now over to Graves. His straightaway 3 bounces out. Rebound gathered in by the Gales. McKeever gets it. Well, he's been doing work down on that low block, hasn't he? St. Mary's up by 12. McKeever. Lewis now back to McKeever on the right block. McKeever throws it up, and it gets the bounce. 14-point game. 13 minutes to go. Here is Gavolyugov, and he loses the basketball. And now St. Mary's in transition. Lewis reverse layup, good. And St. Mary's is turning this into a laugher. The lead is 16. And Santa Clara has no timeout, so they can't stop the momentum. Graves quiets it briefly with a left wing 3. St. Mary still has 4 timeouts remaining for those of you that may be interested in that sort of thing. Lewis, 11 points, 7 assists, 4 steals. Morauskas gives it inside. Count it and 1 for Morauskas. And the crowd most appreciative inside the pavilion in Moraga. Morauskas 12 points and 7 rebounds on the night. Here is the and one. Good. $63 to 47. 12 and a half left to play in what can only be described as a rather an interesting game. St. Mary's, though, has blown open a close one in the second half. Hammond, they're going to need more of that from him. Drills a straightaway three. Lead at 13 as we near the 12-minute mark. Lewis out on the right wing. Lewis, bounce pass underneath to Morauskas. On the left block, Morauskas. Hook shot. Good. They're not going to count the basket, though. He was fouled before the shot. Under 12 break, under 12 national break, 11:53 to go. 63 to 50 the lead for St. Mary's over Santa Clara. Oregon, by the way, now leads Wisconsin by 5 with 9 minutes to go. And San Diego State, another bubble team, needing a big win performance tonight. They're getting it. They lead 60 to 42 over Utah State with 13 minutes to go. And Washington State's up 3 with less than 6 to play at Loyola Marymount. So that's what's happening there in the WCC. Again, as mentioned earlier, the regular season ending for both these teams at the weekend. Both teams will play Saturday. Santa Clara is at home to Oregon State. And as we mentioned, St. Mary's at home themselves taking on Gonzaga, which will be a massive game. It's always a big deal when those two get together. And it will be again. And you would probably bet decent money that they're going to meet a third time in Las Vegas 2 weeks from yesterday in the conference championship game. What a performance, though, by this St. Mary's team here as they just continue to show the way and have blown open a tight game, at least for now. They've blown it open. The big question now is, you have to say, is can Santa Clara find a route back in to the game? Now, if they can, it'll be pretty big. "13-point lead, 11:53 left. Here's the inbounds pass. St. Mary's with it. Reeves now back to Wessels underneath. Here's the hook shot from Wessels. Did not go. 13-point gain at 11:35 left. Graves, a free ride to the basket, and he puts it in. 11-point game, 11:22 to go. Graves with 18. 6 boards as well. But the lead is still at 11. So here we go. 3 to shoot. Got to put it up. Morauskas 3, no good. Chased down by Shaw. Out of bounds. Last touch by Santa Clara. So St. Mary's will keep possession of the ball here. Here we go. St. Mary's, by the way, has a plus 10.9 rebound margin. That's 5th nationally. It's plus 17 tonight. Lewis on the drive, no. And the rebound now is gathered in by Mahi. Graves. And Graves is fouled at the 10:33 mark. He goes to the line. 11-point game. Not quite over yet. I know I was talking about St. Mary's blowing it open, but it's not quite over with yet here, but Santa Clara's going to have to score, and they're going to have to get stops. I know that sounds Captain Obvious, but gotta go. Armstrong. Hammond's 3 off the mark, no good. Ball then bounces out of bounds, and it will go back to St. Mary's. Boyer now heading to the bench for Santa Clara. Nearing the halfway point of the second half. That was a foul, by the way. It's 3 on Boyer. Left wing drive. Shaw now back to Dent. Morauskas. 8 to shoot. Morauskas drives. Out of bounds. 4 on the timer. .55 to go. We're on the shot clock. Here's your catch and shoot. 1, step back 3. No. Loose ball, though. Santa Clara had the rebound. Lost it. McKeever. Lewis out of bounds. It's going to go back to Santa Clara. Indeed it is. So an 11-point game. St. Mary's has gone nearly 3 minutes without scoring, but still find themselves in a big hole as Hammond drives in. They're going to need Hammond to score and be assertive, and well, that's helping a little bit. 63 to 54 as we near the 9-minute mark, and now a foul on Santa Clara that'll stop play. Boy, I tell you, if you're a college basketball junkie like yours truly, you have got, just can't help but love the fact that this time of year is coming. The conference tournaments, the big dance, it's just a lot of fun. It's a 7-0 Santa Clara run. So here comes St. Mary's. Right to the basket, score it for Mikey Lewis. Lead back to 11. Hammond, kick out. Insminger a 3. Graves a 3. They need it. They don't get it. Rebound, Morauskas. Gales coming back the other way. And stoppage here, and I found here at the 8:45 mark. 11-point lead. 8:40 to play. Here is St. Mary's. Lewis. No. Wessel's the putback, though. That was good from Harry Wessels. Lead back at 13. This is Hammond. 18 offensive rebounds tonight for St. Mary's. Graves fouls. It dribbled off the knee. A 13-point game with 8:15 to go. Here's Mahi with it. Mahi kicks it back out. His three, good. Insminger was who got it on the kick out, and the three-pointer is good. 10-point game with under 8 minutes to play. Point game, it's 7:38 left. Morauskas in the corner. He's got a three. Lead now back at 13. 7:25 left. Ninth three of the game for St. Mary's. Mahi now whips it around to Brenton Napper. 11 to shoot. Napper on the accelerator. And draws the foul. Will go to the line. There will be a stoppage at the 7:12 mark. 13-point lead. 13 seems to be the number where it's been hovering for most of this second half, this St. Mary's lead. So 70-57 is your lead here. Once again, and just a great 13-point game. Graves with 18 to lead Santa Clara. How about the rebounding margin? 40 to 19 in favor of St. Mary's. Would you have believed that? I mean, you know the rebounding edge is pretty big. I mean, you expect St. Mary's to be good at rebounding, but my gosh, that's pretty big. But here's Santa Clara going with Brenton Napper, who's a 77% free throw shooter. He's a redshirt senior from Charleston, West Virginia, but attended high school at Colony High School in California. Makes the first one. older brother played at West Virginia, Eastern Kentucky, and Cal State San Bernardino. Hammond comes back in after Napper makes both free throws. The lead is now 11 with 7:12 left. Inbounds pass coming. And here it is to Mikey Lewis. 7:05 remaining. Work here. They can milk some clock here. Dent, they might be trying to do that already. Dent, now Lewis, step back jumper off the front of the rim, no good. Chased down by Lewis, 18 to shoot. Lewis. Now it's Shaw, 11 to shoot. Now back to Lewis. Lewis straight away, you bet. Big three by Mikey Lewis. And the lead now at 14. He just canned one. Mahi floater, no. And the rebound is gathered in by Weeks of St. Mary's. Now here is Santa Clara. With it now, here is Terry Darlin. Darlin on the left block. Darlin moves in, no. Rebound, St. Mary's, Morauskas. Now back over to Dent. Dent now on the right wing, 11 to shoot. Dent drives. He wanted a foul, didn't get it. Ensminger picks up the rebound off the miss. Hammond drives, blocked by Wessels. And then Wessels gets the rebound. Wessels running the break. Big fella! Oh! Drop that hammer like it's hot, big man. Oh, Big Harry. Big Harry. Good day, mate. Lead at 16 on the breakaway dunk. He's got some moves. Graves. No good. Now St. Mary's dribbling it up. 4:20 to play, a 16-point game. Dent. Loose. Out of bounds, and it's going to be with... I just can't get over Harry Wessels a minute ago. The block, the steal, and then the dribbling skills, and he leads the break. And he didn't even use both hands for the slam. He used just one. Holy mackerel. Timeout. Taken by St. Mary's here. I mean, that's impressive. And it's got the crowd fired up, that's for sure. Well, talk about some spicy shrimp on that Barbie. My God. St. Mary's looks like they're on their way to victory here. So a 16-point lead for the Gales. And the big question here is, what's going to happen? Santa Clara's got to put this aside because they've got more trouble. They cannot lose. They're going to go. They're going to go to a game. They're going to turn from a game in which they thought they could have. They would win and have a real chance to a game that now they can't afford to lose against Oregon State at home. They cannot let this St. Mary's game beat them twice. St. Mary's that rebounded Santa Clara 26-12 of the first half, 19-8 here in the second half. Play will resume in a 16-point lead for St. Mary's. Santa Clara needing something. Durant's 3-0. All tipped around and is gathered in by St. Mary's. 16-point lead here with 3:40 to go as they just continue to dribble out this clock and run these seconds off. Morauskas to beat the shot clock. His hook shot does not go. Cochran stepped out of bounds as he was getting the rebound. That kind of sums up the second half for Santa Clara. Herb Sendak, the look on his face, not a pretty one. This is a Santa Clara team. Now here is St. Mary's with 3:20 left. Long cross-court pass now to Morauskas. Lewis straight away. How about another three? 8-point game. 3:02 to play. St. Mary's has just ran away and hid. From Santa Clara in this second half. Long three. No. Rebound, St. Mary's. Two and a half to play. St. Mary's getting dribbling out. Even if it was a little bit closer, they'd probably be doing it because you'd like to give Santa Clara as less time as possible with no timeouts. 8-0 run here. Wessels hooks one in. And now for Santa Clara, this is getting bad because of how they're losing this game. And with the way the modern analytics factor into selection committee work sometimes, as that hook shot does go, you wonder how bad a loss like this, how the margin of victory is going to shape in. Graves hooks it in to cut it back to 19, and then a reach-in foul with 1:54 left. St. Mary's is going to go to 26 up and 4 down, ahead of the game with Gonzaga at the weekend. And what a game it will be. Santa Clara will drop to 23-7 on this season. Free throw good. 1-1 makes it 81-61. Second one good. 82-61, and now Randy Bennett will take a timeout here. "21 points, the lead for St. Mary's here tonight, as Santa Clara is going to have to go back to the drawing board. .54 left. And if these two tie for second place, another reason why this is going to be important is because with the split, the tiebreaker will fall to Rule 3 on Saturday night if both teams finish 15-3. That's the net. And with that, it will definitely favor St. Mary's. Santa Clara up the floor. No good. Shot missing. Here is Rory Hawk. Hawk, final 95 seconds. Another foul. So Gonzaga St. Mary's big game late Saturday night in Moraga. The joint will be jumping. And we'll determine who the 1 seed is in the WCC tournament. St. Mary Gonzaga, of course, will go for the sweep after winning the first game. Front end of a St. Mary's 1-1 is hit by Rory Hawk, redshirt freshman from Townsville in Queensland, Australia. Second free throw also good. Lead now at 23. This was a close game of the first half that just turned into a second half onslaught. Napper in the paint. Scores it and one. So, Napper with a free throw to make this a 20-point game. Napper with scoring his 7th point of the night with that free throw to make this a 20-point lead for the Gales as they now go up the floor. This is Hawk. Hawk nearly fouled. 15 on time. Nearly do call a foul. And why would Santa Clara be trying to intentionally foul when you're down by 20 with a minute 12 left? I mean, if you were down like 8 or even 10, I get extend the game in this fouling this way because you have no timeouts, but you are down by 20. Just don't understand it. Here's Hawk, 6 points, 2 and 2 at the free throw line. He just hit a couple of minutes ago. Here's another 1 and 1, and misses the front end. Santa Clara with the rebound. Up ahead it goes. KJ Cochran jacks up a 3 and gets it to go. And we're into the final minute with the game at 17 points. And St. Mary's having some trouble getting the ball inbounded. So they will take their last timeout. So they actually are out of the timeouts, I do believe. But yeah, 57 seconds left. And this is a good win for St. Mary's. And again, given the fact that by the time they get going in the WCC tournament, it will more than likely be Santa Clara again. Then again, even if they lose that, with the way the rest of the bubble has been looking, you're gonna be hard pressed to convince me that St. Mary's isn't safe now. This win tonight should be enough, and then, like I said, any small debate you could have left after tonight to me goes out the window if they can knock off Gonzaga on Saturday. So 57 seconds left. Going to be another win for Randy Bennett. Here's your inbounds pass to St. Mary's. Hales have it now. Campbell now gives it up to Hawk. Hawk 14 to shoot. Nearly a steal. Hawk gets it back at the back court. 8 to shoot. Long throw. All then tipped away by Cochran. But it stays with St. Mary's, although they're only going to have 6 on the shot clock to work with. Jump shot is no good by Tony Duckett, who's coming in the game, but they get the offensive rebound, St. Mary's. Hawk, now here's Duckett, who averages about 7 minutes a game, and he scores right there. He averages about 3 a game, too. Points scoring, at least. And here is Gaviliagov now. Here is Francis Chukwebulu, who misses a 3, and that's going to take us to the finish line with a St. Mary's rebound. Impressive second half onslaught. Gets it done for the Gales on this night. They win it by a final of 86 to 67. They take care of Santa Clara. They make this a laugher in the second half. 25 straight home wins. That's the best mark in program history. And a big test of those home court credentials. They'll go for 26 in a row at the building with mighty Gonzaga coming in on Saturday night. What a game that will be. A chance for a share of the championship if St. Mary's can win. So that'll do it for this watch along. Hope you enjoyed. Our final score, St. Mary's 86, Santa Clara 67. So long and good night, and we will so long and good night